We are live, and
Hello, Lakeland.
yeah, we barely crossed. I don't think we can get it done yet.
Right.
Just don't get over to your right.
Good over to my right. Ready?
Yeah. Well, hello everyone. LBL. Thank you for tuning in and watching with Chrissanne Long. We're super excited about Lakeland Insights and what this is going to do. And really, I kind of want to start out with you guys and kind of tell you a little bit about, what our goal is for this. And, really our goal and my passion behind this is to help businesses get more exposure in more of just an advertising form and more of just a promotion type way to really get involved with business owners, know what makes them tick, what they're passionate about, and really give you a sense of why they run their business the way they do, and what you can expect when you do possibly do business with these business owners or call on them for help and things like that. And so, obviously, like I said, we have Chrissanne Long with us today with Maximize Digital Media, and I'm so excited to be here with you today, Chrissanne.
Excited to be here.
Awesome. And I know Chrissanne's been a big supporter of this, and she's very passionate about this as well. And today, I think you guys are really going to get a lot of really good nuggets from Chrissanne and some of the things that she's very passionate about and that she applies to her business. I think we can all take very important keys and very, very strategic ideas and apply them in our businesses or apply them in our personal lives even, and really grow and develop. And so, really, today, what we're going to be talking about is why people over profit matters more today than ever. That's a very powerful statement there, Christine.
Revolutionary.
It is. It really
It
is.
is.
And I think, especially in this day and age, it's more important than ever.
Absolutely. I think, well, I started the topic with the word why because that's been the driving force for me to be able to clearly articulate where Maximize is going, what we're trying to do, who we're trying to serve. And when I fell on, it's probably been like 6 years ago when I found Simon Sinek's Start With Why, basically his TED Talk. It was fascinating to me. First time I had heard anything like that, and so I really started to try and absorb it. And I realized how much other people struggled with identifying their why or their internal, what's your purpose?
Right.
We talk a lot more about normally results, or we talk about more of what we do, but we don't kind of talk about what's driving that forward or what's pushing you forward. And I feel like if we don't have a solid why, when things get tough and barriers come along and we don't really know why we're doing it, it's just natural that we're just going to quit because we don't have a reason or a purpose to continue because we don't have that solid understanding.
Absolutely, and I totally agree. I think in any business, especially from what I've seen, you're going to face different challenges and different hurdles you're going to have to overcome at certain points. And if the reason for you doing that business isn't grounded in a passion and excitement that wakes you up, in the middle of the night, that gets you up early and you go to bed late for, then when you face those hurdles, you're just going to think to yourself, well, it's not worth it.
Right. And if the money is the result, so that's kind of the piece that comes out of a successful business. But if that's your driving force, when you're not making money, you're struggling, you don't have two pennies to rub together or whatever, then you start to think that there's no reason for you to be in business anymore because it's not turning a profit.
Absolutely. And yeah, we have another powerful statement here, and it basically says the dynamics of the digital marketplace demand transparency, and more consumers are growing tired of these corporations that still believe it's okay to be dishonest, settle for less, or hide behind faceless brands. And I think as a consumer, as we all are, I think we see that more and more where, especially, with the growing technology and the way news spreads today and, the way things, get around like Twitter, I mean, and all these different kind of technologies, if a company messes up, they either have to apologize and fix that very quickly, or they're going to be, have a bad image very, very quickly. I mean, we're talking minutes, hours.
Right, and it's scary. I think a lot of businesses feel like their best solution is to stay out of that game because they're terrified of the repercussions. When the reality is that the repercussions aren't negative repercussions.
Right.
It's actually really, really important that businesses are transparent and authentic. And what consumers want more and more is authentic, transparent brands to do business with. So the more authentic you can be, I mean, everybody knows that every business is run by human beings. And so when you can be a human being in business, it allows people to see you as that person. You're going to make mistakes. When you make a mistake, what do? Do you go run and hide, or do you say, you know what, we messed up and we need to fix it? We're going to do everything we can to win your trust back again.
Yeah, I think that's ultimately so powerful because I know myself as a consumer. When I'm out there and I'm buying a product or a service or something like that, and there's a mistake made, as long as it's fixable, right? If the company or a representative came and said, "Hey, we're so sorry this happened. We definitely want to make it right. We want to fix it." Honestly, that's going to raise their rapport with me so much that I'll probably only do business with them from now on.
Right, and I've heard story after story of people telling the same exact, but specific examples where something just went wrong, and because the owner took ownership of the problem, and instead of just saying, "Well, tough, I'll just refund your money," or whatever, they won the customer for the long term because they took advantage of that human moment where a mistake was made and worked to win that customer back. And that's the key in anything. But so with digital being so prevalent and people wanting to write negative reviews and businesses saying, "Oh, just turn it off. I don't want to even let people write reviews on my Facebook page anymore because it's killing our business." The reality is, if you take those as opportunities and allow yourself to handle them, please give us a call at the office, or look, we want to make that right. 90% of the time, the person writing the review is just venting and griping and isn't ever going to be satisfied no matter what. But if you allow that person to see the human side of you, not a negative human side of you, but a professional, sophisticated human side of you, you'll be able to let other people see that as an opportunity. So if you wrote a comment, "Hi, this is John, the owner of the company. Please give me a call and I'll take care of this." That person may or may not ever call, but everybody else reading those reviews will see the value that you brought into that, the situation that you were dealing with. Even if it was just the most ridiculous review and everybody knows it.
Yeah, absolutely. And so I think one of the things as business owners that, oh, is the video sideways?
Yep.
Well, we will try to fix that real quick.
The handles. Squeeze
There
the handle
we
tight.
go.
There we go.
All right.
Beautiful.
Okay.
All right, we're back.
All right. Sorry about that, guys.
So, perfect example of being human.
And making mistakes and owning up to
this
it,
is
right?
going to be our award-winning version of these videos.
Exactly.
Because we are just perfectly human in them.
So kind of what I was saying is, I think as business owners, the digital revolution, as so many people like to call it, is really taking over, and businesses are able to expand and grow and reach out to so many more people. I mean, exactly like this. Once we develop a following and we have people that watching this and tuning in are excited about it, people will have an opportunity to reach out and expose themselves to different markets and different client bases and things like that. And so technology is amazing, but can you tell me a little bit real quick about how businesses should be looking forward to advancements and how they can utilize tools already?
Absolutely. I will go ahead and say we're embracing technology right now by taking advantage. Facebook released this live feature to all users on Facebook just a couple of weeks ago. So Scott had approached me and said, "Hey, let's do this thing. We're going to use Periscope," and then we kind of went with the flow because Facebook Live was now released to everybody. So it's like it's not keeping up with the Joneses. It's just being willing to go outside of your box or go outside of the original plan and be prepared to kind of adapt to whatever the technology becomes or how it evolves into something different. And so with that being said, I will also add that this isn't like the most comfortable thing
Right.
to do, right? Like getting in front of a
Exactly.
camera and talking, and we're in the park, and people are looking at us funny, and what am I going to say? Am I going to say something stupid? So, being aware that sometimes those things are going to happen. You're going to be nervous. It's not going to be comfortable. You're going to have to get used to it and ease yourself into it little by little. But don't shut the door. Don't say no. Absolutely not. I'm not going to be able to do that. Consider the possibility of doing some things that might be challenging you or making you step outside your box.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think again that all relates to like your why and your purpose. And if you're passionate about the things that you're doing, like the reason I'm doing this is to really, because I'm really passionate about small businesses, and a lot of that has been developed through LBL, and and being involved in the group here, and I'm really passionate about small businesses myself. I want all the support and networking and everything like that as possible, but so does every small business owner. Every small business owner deserves that opportunity.
Absolutely.
And so if you're passionate, you'll deal with things like a camera that's on its side, and fumbling with that and kind of looking, like you don't know what you're doing. But it doesn't matter because we're excited about what we're doing. So I'd love to go back to that Simon video.
Yeah.
You're talking about the Golden Circle. So tell me a little bit about that. And we have Simon's book here. If you haven't read it, definitely read it. At least check out his TED Talks YouTube video. It's powerful. It'll change how you do what you do and why you do it. But tell us a little bit about what all that is.
Well, so the Golden Circle looks like this. I brought a picture of it for visual simulation here so that it's not just me on camera. So in the middle of the circle is your why, and then you have your how and your what. And so Simon's philosophy basically says that companies that succeed because they start from the inside out, and all of the things that they do because they're coming from that solid purpose, which we talked about already. But then what we all know is what we do. We all know what we sell. We all know what we have. We know what our products are. We know what our services are. So that's the final piece. That's the outside circle. And that's when most businesses come in from outside in. They're starting with the products and services, their value proposition, the thing that they have to sell. But if they don't sell, if it falls on deaf ears, if somebody says, you know what, I don't need that widget or that product or that thing, and then they get tired of going to 25 different people that have all told them no, they fizzle out. And so either they quit, they move on to a different job, and so this is about hiring people who understand your internal focus and what your purpose is, more not just your customers, but also hiring the people who buy into your why.
Yeah.
And knowing that your customers are going to be served by employees who really embody the purpose of your business and why you created that business in the first place. And that's what, to me, is so important. And then that's how these two books actually segue together. The one thing I was going to say is, everything that we do at Maximize is driven by our why. And, it's a moving target for some people because they'll say this is their why, and but after 5 or 6 years, and you're consistently doing the same things, you can kind of hone in on exactly what it is that is your why, and that you keep coming back to. And so for us at Maximize, it's, our why is driven by what we believe, and we believe that when small businesses succeed, a community thrives. The local community is going to thrive because the local economy is improving. People are, and entrepreneurs are able to give back into the community. Small business owners are the number one, creators of generosity. I mean, they're the ones that are, supporting little leagues and donating to nonprofit events and doing things and getting involved in the community. So that's kind of where everything we do at Maximize is driven exactly by helping those small businesses succeed and leverage the internet to stay relevant with the digital age.
Absolutely. And so I think that's powerful. And like you touched on, a key thing is hiring people that have the same or very similar, or at least can buy into the vision that you have as a business owner, and I think that's so important because a lot of times I think corporations want to just look at, hey, do they have this qualification,
right,
when really, that person can be completely qualified but not, care about what you do and
right,
why you do it,
right.
and that's massive. So how do you guys incorporate that specifically, like, into your business with clients, with your employees? How do you speak your why? How do you show that? How do you give that to people?
Well, I think I think over time it's just become part of who I am, and so
Yeah.
I live it, I breathe it, I speak it. I support the same things that I believe we are trying to bring about and maximize this space. And then my employees, it's kind of it seems like sometimes I feel like my mom trying to teach me all these valuable lessons because it's kind of redundant. It's the same thing over and over and over again.
Yeah.
But it never gets old for me. It's like it just gets me more excited and more pumped up to be able to know that we're helping these businesses. And when we get the emails from a client that says, gosh, I've gotten more leads in this quarter than I received all last year, we get pumped up, we get excited, we're high-fiving in the office because we know that what we're doing is working.
Right. And so what does that speak to, let's say, like clients, right? So, like one of your core beliefs is digital marketing strategies designed with people in mind. So how does that play out for your clients and for you guys?
It's huge. The hardest part is to explain to a client why we're building a marketing strategy the way that we're building it. We're not building it with the client in mind, which is typically how a client wants to be treated.
Right.
You come to me and you say, I want something, and we say the customer's always right, so we give you what you want, and you walk away and you're happy.
Yeah.
In our environment, we're trying to educate the client to understand why we need to build a marketing strategy with their customer in mind. What does the customer want? The customer will tell you what it is that you want. We just have to be able to be position, listen, and be able to apply those things into their marketing strategy. So the first step is trying to help them understand, we understand that you know what you want, but we really need to focus on what your client wants because that's how you're going to have a successful campaign or how we're going to build a website that's going to work for your business.
Right. I think that's huge. I think, again, that just speaks back to, why people matter. I mean, again, when you're looking at your business and you're looking at why you should or shouldn't make a decision, keeping your client in mind, right? And again, not maybe your bottom dollar, but your client. What is your client looking for? What do they need? What do they want? What are they looking for from you?
Right.
The market's never wrong.
Right. And how you are communicating that to your audience is the key to how you're going to bring in your ideal customer or your ideal client. It's you don't go, there's a certain kind of bait that catches bass, and so you don't use a different bait to catch a bass. You use the kind of bait that's going to bring that fish in. So if your target audience is a bass, don't use somebody else's bait or another fish's bait to bring in a bass. You just know that that's a principle in fishing.
Exactly.
So it's the same idea as it's putting the information out there that's going to attract the ideal audience and the ideal client to you so that you can, have happy customers and you can be happy doing the job that you do for your customers.
Awesome. That's that's pretty fantastic. I mean, if we stopped right there, we'd already have more nuggets than ever. So you're great. And so, like, within Maximize, so tell us a little bit, what are your tactics? Like, what do you do to bring out results? And so we've got your why, what drives you, and we kind of know how you do that with clients and everything. But what are your specific tactics? Like, what do you how do you get your results that you for your clients?
So we start by asking the client what their goal is, and they will tell us pretty much what they're looking to do. So if it's, I want to increase my Facebook presence, so then we figure out what those tactics need to be specifically for that particular goal, to achieve that goal.
Right.
So we look, does the website have content or does the website link back to the Facebook page?
Right.
Are we updating our content regularly on Facebook? Do we have an advertising strategy in place that we can make people more aware of that Facebook page because the Facebook algorithm says, sorry businesses, you're going to have to pay to play.
Right.
So we need to come up with something that's going to be measurable for our client to be able to get that access or reach the audience that they're trying to reach. So everything's basically geared on the specific goal that the client comes to us with, and then our tactics. It's kind of like we have this big tool chest, and we say, okay, if we need the Facebook advertising tool, we bring that out if their goal is something related to Facebook. If it's something different, then we pull out a different tool.
Okay, that's fantastic. And I think that again, when you're looking at doing different types of advertising or again making business decisions, having different tactics in mind and doing things for a purpose. Like I think a lot of times as business owners, we don't always know what the right decision is at that moment to make. But if you again have that passion, have that why, and you know what your goal is that you're trying to do, make a gut decision and go for it. And hey, again, we talk about clarity in your people and focusing on people. If it's a mistake, you just cut your losses and you move on.
Right. If it was easy, everybody would be doing it.
Exactly.
So you just have to know that you have to take a chance, and normally you're taking a calculated risk. You're taking something that isn't, throwing all logic to the wind. You're really specifically taking one piece and saying, let's test this out and let's see what happens. And the beautiful part of the digital age is that everything is measurable. And so those outcomes can be determined. If you set a goal for this campaign to bring you 200 likes and you got 95, well, you didn't meet the goal, but now you know what you did and how you can build upon that to do something better the next time. So to me, it's the hard part is getting the business owner, sometimes the client, to think outside of this is what we've always done.
Right.
Because we're going to get what we always got if we do what we always have done.
Exactly.
But in the digital age, that means that we're going to become more and more irrelevant because people are going to move on because they're tired of that. They're not interested in businesses that are doing the old school kind of way of bringing in new business. They're looking for creative, they're looking for passion, they're looking for energetic, they're looking for transparency. And if we're not willing to give that to them, then they're going to move on and find somebody that's giving that to them.
Exactly. I think here's an interesting question for maybe small businesses just getting started that necessarily are wanting to try to take advertising in their own hands, try to maximize digitally in their own hands, right? What would you say some pieces of advice are? Like, obviously for every business, I think something that we need to keep in mind, there's a better platform for every business. There's a different audience on every platform. I know one of Chrissanne and my favorite digital guys, marketing guys is Gary Vaynerchuk. Definitely another great guy to follow. If you guys aren't following anyone right now or want to dive more into this, but what are just a couple pieces of advice that you would give to people who are wanting to maybe just dive in or kind of get started or taking a look at expanding digitally?
So the first thing that I would say is that don't heed the advice of someone who says you have to be everywhere. You're going to spread yourself too thin, and you're not going to be able to be effective in the different platforms or the different places that you've established yourself to be in. So if someone says why don't you have a Twitter account? Your answer is based on where you are and what you're capable of doing and what your resources are. And if Twitter isn't your ideal audience or your ideal market, then you don't need to have a Twitter account just to let it sit there and be vacant.
Right.
The other thing I would say is start small. Start with a small, attainable goal that gives you that feeling of success as you embark on whatever it is that you're going to accomplish. And then I really truly believe this: success leaves clues. So you have to be curious. You have to look at people doing something similar to what you're doing and find out, kind of reverse engineer it and look at how are they doing it? What are the mechanics of that? And how is that working for them? And how can I learn from what they're doing and apply that to me? So if you're in the financial industry, find somebody who's doing a really good job of blogging and has a good blog presence, and look at the content and see how they're doing it, and then figure out your own plan or your own strategy based on their success and the fact that they're doing a good job at what they're doing.
Awesome. And let's I'd love to get back to this people over profit. Chrissanne brought another book here, People Over Profit, by Dale Partridge. Another fantastic book. But this is really, starting with your why and people over profit, they tie in so well together. You start with your why, and your why should be your people, should be your client base, should be why you're in business. What kind of impact, what kind of change you want to make. And so, can you tell me a little bit about the book? Just kind of summarize it for us real quick.
Absolutely. I love this book. It is probably one of the best ways of understanding this new dynamic of business that's not the traditional, systematic way of business. Dale does a fabulous job of explaining the system that many businesses fall prey to, and he breaks it down into 4 different eras. And the first era is the honest era. It's the brand new business. You're values driven. You're going after it. You know what you're here to do, and you're going to go out and accomplish it. And then you reach a level of success. Things are working because you were passionate and you were driven and you were focused on the values of the value proposition of your business. And then you start to see that success, and you go, okay, wait a minute. I need to scale. I need to do more. I need to do faster. I need to do more efficient. So you're tempted to cut corners. You're starting to look at ways that you can maybe buy a cheaper brand. Your quality starts to go down. You start to try and make more money with less, and that's when you're into the efficient era, is what Dale calls it in the book. And then because of that, your customers are starting to notice a trend, change. The quality isn't the same. The experience was less enjoyable. I didn't have as much of a good time, or it seemed like I got a smaller portion in my meal or whatever. And so then they're going to come to you and they're going to say, this doesn't seem like the same burger that I had the last time I was here. It seems smaller, or it didn't seem the same quality of meat. And you're not going to tell them, oh yeah, we now are buying cheaper meat so that we can save money and build our business. You're just going to, no, it's the same. It's the same. Well, we have a new little recipe, but it's the same quality. It's the same thing. So now you're in the deceptive era, and your customers are going to catch wind of that. They're going to eventually go, well, the burgers aren't that good anymore. I'm not going to show up there anymore. And they've moved on. And then that means you have to either decide, am I going to close my business, or am I going to fix things? Am I going to make things better? And that's when you move into the apologetic era. And in the book, he talks about Domino's. And Domino's went through a process or a time when things were really, really good. And then they started to notice that quality was going down, customers weren't happy, people weren't buying Domino's pizza anymore, the competition was fierce in the pizza world. And so then they had to stop, and they had to say, we either need to fix this or we need to quit, because we're losing money and we're not going to be able to grow based on the current situation. So they changed their whole direction and fixed everything, and now they're experiencing probably the most success that they've had in the history of Domino's. And so that's kind of the cycle that I think we're all aware of, because in different phases of our businesses we can all probably relate to being at some point in that area, hopefully not in the deceptive era, but in that temptation of, okay, I've got to cut corners, but how do I do that? And how do I scale? And how do I get to that next level? And I really believe that Dale's version of this story and how he tells it is just fantastic. I think every business should read it, because it helps us to understand that we all struggle, we all have those difficulties, but there are ways to make sure that we can maintain the integrity of our company.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, and I think we talked about already that well, Chrissanne and I did. We talked about how when you make mistakes as a company, it can be so public. It can be so spread, fast on Twitter and Snapchat, Facebook, all these different types of outlets, and just Google in general. I mean, we can't forget
Right.
Uncle G, right? Because Uncle G.
The Google gods.
Exactly. But what would you say? What are some ideas? Because like you said, a lot of us have been through some of these stages. How do you recover, or how do you correct, or how do you deal with these different stages, and how do you? We'll start with that. How do you notice that you're in a stage, and what do you do to? I'd say like you're in the
Prevent
efficient
it.
stage, yeah.
Yeah.
So like, or you're just about to be like, you're getting so busy where you need to grow, but you don't necessarily want to lower the standard of your product or service or something. How do you prevent that from happening?
Well, first, the answer is people.
Okay.
you put the spotlight on the people. So,
Mhm.
and the people isn't just your customers. Your people are your vendors. Your people are your employees. Your people are yourselves as well,
Yeah.
the leadership team.
Mhm.
And I really feel like that's the answer. I mean,
Yeah.
you have to communicate with your vendors. Hey, if you've got good vendors and good relationships with those vendors, and you're realizing that their prices are going up, which means that your customers' prices are going to have to go up, you've got to find a solution. And maybe it's just finding a different vendor, or maybe it's coming up with some opportunities or deals. You've got to be creative, and you
Right.
can't just take it on the chin and say, oh, well, prices are going up. You have to find solutions that are going to work for you guys in the company, your leadership team, your employees, your customers, and your vendors. So that to me is making people the number one priority in all aspects.
Yeah.
Helps you to not bend the rules to
Mhm.
fit something else in that might not fit for your company or for your integrity. The other answer is you've got to go back to your why.
Yeah.
You really have to go back and say, okay, wait a second. Why are we doing what we're doing? And are we accomplishing what we need to accomplish by cutting these corners or trying to be more efficient? Or do we really just need to be more of a boutique and
Yeah.
not every person, every a client, a company for every person?
Mhm.
We focus in our laser target focus on who is our ideal client and our ideal customer, and that might shed some of that desire to
Yeah.
go off the deep end.
Yeah. Yeah, and I think that's extremely powerful. Again, I mean, it's all back to your why, your people. Even if it is like Chrissanne said, like your vendors or your business partners, or just even your suppliers, anything like that. You have to build relationships with people. that's the best way to grow a business. You know, if you have good relationships with people, you can have. I mean, it's industry specific, but you can have more qualities or more supplies quicker. You can have better quality supplies, and you can negotiate those different types of things. Um, and so there's a couple great principles here that you really took from the book, and obviously the first one's people matter. Second one is truth wins.
Right.
So tell us a little bit about that. Again, just real quick. You know, how do we stay honest? Not that I think it's a blatant thing where we're trying to be dishonest, but it's easy to get caught up in a situation and try to make an excuse.
Right.
Even.
And I think for me, truth, and then he goes into transparency. So truth is really, if I'm bringing the brand that we represent to the public, and I believe with all of my being that what I do is the best way that it needs to be done, how it can be done, the quality of the product is exactly what it needs to be, then I can tell that truth.
Yeah.
And that's not a falsity. That's not making some story up. That's not deceptive.
Right.
And so when you build it on the strength of the best that you can do, and you believe that, then that comes through.
Right.
Because you believe in the integrity and you believe in the product that you're putting forward. And so you don't kind of feel like, well, I've got to tell a story. I've got to sell something, because sometimes that selling is, really kind of taking the focus on the quality and making more about, I just want to make the sale.
Yeah. Because the reality is we want to keep customer satisfaction as high as possible. We want to please everyone, but the reality is we can't.
Right.
And Grant Cardone, he has a great thing where he says, look, he's like, we do the best we can with getting our product out to people as quickly as we can. He says, but if we have someone that is complaining about the orders, taking way too long, and it's kind of just an exaggerated situation, there's always more clients out there that are maybe better fit for your business, that are maybe better fit for the solution you provide. Right. Not saying that we should just toss customers off,
no,
but
definitely not.
Different businesses are meant for different clients and vice versa, because we all have our own passions and goals, people that we're trying to cater to.
Right, and I think there's a lot of truth in that, and I want to add to what you're saying, that you cannot please everyone. That's a statement of fact. However, the moment that you shift into making that an excuse for not providing quality service, not taking care of the customer, then that kind of doesn't really serve the purpose anymore. Right. There's going to be people that are just not a good fit for your business. That is a true fact. Yep. But don't let that become something you hide behind. Well, I just can't make everybody happy, so too bad, and let that unhappy customer go away just because you weren't able to maybe go a little bit further, a little extra mile to provide some sort of satisfaction. Maybe not 100% satisfaction, but at least they didn't walk away mad.
Exactly. Yeah, and we never obviously want to put our customers in a position where they feel like they can't do business with us. And I think the last thing that really stands out to me that I'd love to talk about is authenticity attracts.
Yeah.
Because again, when you're talking about your why, and we're talking about keeping people over profits and having more importance on that, more value on that, I think authenticity, you can't be anything but authentic if you're truly doing and expressing through your business what you're passionate about.
Right.
And so, can you tell us a little bit about that, like authenticity attracts? Like, what does that mean to you, and how do people utilize that?
Well, the first thing that comes to mind is there's a quote in Start With Why by Simon Sinek that actually says he's had clients hire him as a consultant, so to speak, that want him to tell them how to be more authentic. And that's kind of the whole problem, is that people don't realize that authenticity is who you are, and it's not something that you can be. Right. It is just, you have to allow the essence of the person that you are be the person that you are. Not try to fake it, not try to pretend, not try to put on pretenses and say, when you walk into Maximizer, when you walk into our office, that is who we are.
Right.
We don't have, this really huge, great, awesome office. We love our office, it's great, but it isn't,
you do have an awesome office.
It is an awesome office, but it doesn't have all these bells and whistles, because we're not bells and whistles. We are who we are, and we want to bring a good product to our clients, and therefore we don't spend a whole lot of money going and putting bells and whistles on our office, because our work is in what we do for our client. And it's just simple things like that. I don't know that answers the question completely,
Yeah.
But I think, just allowing the fact that you are who you are. I always use the example when I'm talking about authenticity. It's like I'm a big Florida State fan. Go
Right.
Noles.
Right.
And if I pull that back, that's not authentic. You know,
Right.
if I say, well, you're a Gator, so let me not tell them that if I were having this conversation and I saw you were wearing a Gator shirt, me not being who I was and having a conversation would be like pretending like I'm a Gator, and I could never do that.
Right.
So it's really understanding that your principles and your integrity are who you are, and you're going to find the clients that fit based on being who you are. You're going to find the clients that fit your fake personality if you create that fake persona. So it's being truly authentic to that and allowing the right customers, the right fit to come in your door and become your clients or your customers.
Yeah. And I think that did definitely answer the question. A couple of things I just want to input on that is I think as humans, right, who and business owners and people in the marketplace that make mistakes and aren't perfect, I think it's easy to hide behind our insecurities, and that really I think is the big inhibitor to being authentic and being who we are, because it takes a lot to put yourself out there, and not just in front of your friends, your family, but in front of the community, right? In front of the business, where maybe there are people who do what you do who've been doing what you do for longer, and maybe they do it just a little bit of a different way. But again, it comes back to that why, that passion. Like, hey, if you really believe that you're supposed to be doing what you do for this reason, for this client, and you're there to help a need, then again, you can't help but be authentic, because that's your passion. That's nobody else's passion.
Right. And you mentioned Gary Vaynerchuk, and we had this conversation in one of our team meetings last week. And this is not a comfortable thing for me. I'll just be perfectly honest. And shout out to Tim Dock at Octoro Staffing. He was saying, you need to get on video. You need to get on video.
Right.
My answer to him was, it's just not comfortable.
Right.
But it isn't. It's not something that I need to say no to.
Right.
It's expanding that, getting beyond my fear. So when you invited me, my first thought was, oh, I don't want to get on video. Okay, well, it's a good idea, and I want to support Scott because it's a great idea for everybody in the Lakeland business leaders to have an opportunity to have a voice and to share their business wisdom and to support one another with the content and the information that you're going to be able to bring them out. So I had to swallow that.
Yeah.
I had to take my insecurity and say, okay, I'm throwing out over my shoulder and forgetting about it, because I really, truly wanted to be able to provide this opportunity for you and for the other people who are watching and down the road.
Right. And I think for just on that comment, I mean, you're amazing. We all love you, and I know everyone's so appreciative that you did this as well, because the nuggets you brought. And I just want to say one last thing is, if you think about your long-term customers or your favorite customers, right, your best clients, those are probably the people that meshed to your authentic person the most.
Yep.
Right?
Absolutely. I think, again, it's like if you accidentally caught the fish on the wrong hook or with the wrong bait, that's an accident. You're going to get some of those. They're going to come in the door, and you're going to go, oh, okay, this is a client that isn't a perfect fit. And you have to know what your plan is for that. And I think that's a very tough thing, especially for businesses starting out, because any client is a good client at the beginning. And then you have to fine-tune that. And so Craig, my partner Craig Husking, and I use the example of flying to the moon. When you launch a space shuttle to the moon, they're not on their trajectory all the time. They're constantly navigating to get back onto trajectory to get to the moon, but they're not like right on. There's not a straight line that goes straight to the moon. There's movement back and forth and keeping them, going in the right direction. And so that's the thing that I think it has helped us a lot in business, is that sometimes you have to deviate a little bit from that line, and you have to go forward anyway. And then what you learn from that lesson, you have to apply the next time.
Absolutely. Well, yeah, everyone, I think this has been a fantastic first episode. I apologize. We had some camera issues. We'll make sure that doesn't happen again. But Chrissanne, you were fantastic. Definitely brought, so much golden nuggets that we can utilize.
You're an awesome host, so you did a great job
well,
too.
I appreciate that.
This is going to be very, very fun.
This is pretty uncomfortable for me too. First time I've ever done anything like this, so I'm glad we rocked it together.
Yeah, we did.
And you guys, if you ever need anything from myself or Chrissanne, I know you can definitely reach out to us. Let us know. I hope this brought some value to you. At least maybe just spark some energy in you for the rest of your day. And focus on your passion. Focus on your why. If you don't know exactly what your why is, if you can't write it out, right? Focus on that. Get it crystal clear, so that way when you run into challenges, when you run into hurdles, you can easily overcome that by saying, well, my drive and why I do this is so much more important than this little challenge. It doesn't matter what that is.
Right, absolutely. 100%.
And so, awesome. And so, guys, thank you so much. We're going to go ahead and cut it off, but we appreciate you for watching, and have a great day.
Tune in next time.
Absolutely.
Who's your next interview with?
Not sure yet. Stay tuned, and we'll definitely let you guys know. It'll be next week sometime. Stay tuned, and yeah, we'll keep it fresh and keep it relevant for you. Absolutely.
Great job.
All right, you too.